Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is 1 p.m. here. Well, it's 2 p.m. here in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm here at ASICS HQ in the Creation Studio, getting to do a live stream from somewhere else. I think this is the first time I've done a live stream from somewhere else. Super excited about it. But it's 1 p.m. in Chicago time, which means it's time for a live stream. Today is Saturday, August 14th, 2021. Ooh, it is a lovely but hot day here in Boston. And today I have a guest. You might be able to see his arm there, but I do have a guest here. I have Bob from ASICS. Say hi, Bob.
Hey, everyone.
Before you introduce yourself, I do want to talk about we are wearing our masks, but pursuant to the rules and guidelines that are applicable to not only Massachusetts and Boston, but also this building, if we're the only ones in this room, we can take off our masks if you feel comfortable with it and if you choose to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now.
As well.
All right. So before we get into it, let me switch back over here, do camera 1, camera 2 a little bit. Let's say hi to everyone listening in on the podcast. Sorry that you guys can't see it today. I'm sitting in front of a beautiful shoe wall behind me here in the conference room at ASICS HQ, but you'll be able to hear us. Hopefully you'll be able to hear us well. And hopefully you guys are having a good run and it's not too humid out there. And for everyone listening and watching on YouTube after the fact and not live, hope you're at a time in your day where you can sit back with a nice recovery beverage. I've got some coffee today that I'm going to be enjoying. All right, now let's quickly say hi to everyone who's here in the live stream. Mark says he's going to have to pick up some chicken at Whole Foods. He wants to know if anybody needs something. That's awesome. Very thoughtful of you, Mark. All right, Kiefer was here. He's going to be missing today, but he hopes all is well. Hope you're doing well, Kiefer. Casey A says, welcome to Boston Co. Heading out for my run now through the Emerald Necklace area, then over towards Fenway. It is a hot one. We were over there last night to catch the game, and it was really, really hot. Once the sun went down, it wasn't too bad, but I think, Casey, you're going to be getting into some heat. Awesome. And Martha says, Kofuzi, if you hear any insider news about any details regarding the marathon, please share. Haven't received a newsletter in a while from the BAA, but Massachusetts has among the lowest COVID rates of all, so crossing fingers. All right, and then Martha says, are those orange, black, white vertical rows in the photo the sky and edge or vice versa? Oh, these over here, I think these are the sky. These are the magic speeds that are over here. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what that looks like there. All right, without further ado, I know there's a lot more chat in here, but I want to make sure that I'm not just inviting a guest over and then dominating the talk time. So I'm going to bring Bob on. Bob, wrong camera there. Here we go. What's going on? How are you?
Not much. Happy to be here and thrilled to have you in town. It's exciting to be back in person doing stuff like this.
Cool. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role here at ASICS?
Definitely. So my name is Bob Fay. I am a merchandiser here at ASICS, and essentially my job is to be the voice of runners in the US during the product creation process. So working with our global product team to really speak to kind of the needs of the runner here and help kind of push the line forward as we go to the future.
Very cool. So if you're the voice of, so you're like the suggestion box, and then you take those suggestions and then.
To a degree, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Where are you getting your suggestions from?
No one single resource, certainly. So a lot of it kind of starts with, following people like you and other affiliates and reviewers. And that's a piece of it. Being out at races, in communities, going out to local group runs, things like that. And then also interfacing with accounts and connecting to wholesale partners and retailers around the US and really previewing products, speaking to kind of longer term concepts from the brand, where we want to take things, and kind of continually gut checking the process to make sure we're not bringing something to market that's either not relevant or doesn't necessarily connect to what the US runner is looking for or needs.
Very cool. And do you ever get to trade notes with some of your global counterparts?
Certainly, yeah. So we're lucky here in Boston. Our global product management team is based here. So we're on the 3rd floor, they're on the 2nd floor. So there's a lot of back and forth creation and connection with them. And then we also have people in my position from other regions, and we connect with Europe often. Australia, have great partners there. Previously, those meetings would happen in Kobe, Japan, at our kind of global headquarters.
Awesome.
Right now, they're all virtual, but definitely craving getting back into that environment and being back in person.
Well, that's got to be really disappointing to not be able to go to Japan to have these meetings.
It's less jet lag, so a plus on that part.
Yeah.
But being able to experience Kobe and then also see people in person is greatly missed.
Yeah. What would you say? I mean, if you like to put you on the spot, what would you say is something that in North America users and runners are clamoring for that is very different from, say, other parts of the world? Like how is North America specific in terms of what we want here?
So I think the great thing about being here in the US is it is kind of the tip of the spear in terms of like innovation and pushing products specifically in the performance run space forward. So whether that's kind of technology innovation and delivering new foams underfoot, new geometry stories, or even something as simple as the point of view of the US on color. I think there's a lot of spots where from a trend perspective, the US definitely leads.
Okay.
And being able to kind of voice that in the process along with my teammates is a very cool part of it.
Okay, cool, very cool. And then so then if I'm hearing you, then like in the US, everyone's like, give me a race day shoe, and then in maybe Europe, people are like, what do we need race day shoes for? Is that like a fair way to distill it?
There's certainly some of that at a simple level, and then other parts are, we need a super foam race shoe with a carbon plate, or whereas Europe sees more traditional, Europe as an example, I'm not saying that that's specifically what they're asking for, but some of those nuances and the back and forth and kind of having a vision of 3 years, 5 years because of our product timelines where we think the market is going, and having those kind of sometimes heated, but productive dialogues about what we see kind of our region's needs are and how they kind of connect together with all those other regions of the globe.
Has there ever been a discussion, or has there ever been in production, like, here's this shoe, but it's like kind of like with DVDs can be set to regions? Is there like, this is like the North American Nimbus, but if you go to Japan, it's totally different. Like, is there anything that exists like that?
So back in the early 90s for a while, ASICS was building some regional nuance into a product like that. Now we've kind of started to find more consistencies, and as innovation has pushed into our line, we've started to kind of broaden out those opportunities overall. The other thing is there's still definitely regional nuances where there's models that are offered in the United States that you don't see in other regions, and vice versa as well. So something that's super relevant in, say, Japan or Australia, you may not see here at all. And part of that is kind of the team I work on, or our decision-making process and understanding, is there, at the end of the day, a business opportunity for serving a runner with that.
So is there like a secret racing shoe that I don't know about that people in Australia are just like busting out PRs in? Or are you holding back on us?
For us, racing is definitely a big enough story that you guys are getting the like creme de la creme.
Okay.
You're getting it all on that.
All right, cool. Let's take a break here to check some questions from everyone that's here in the chat. All right, let's see what we got. If you have questions for Bob, lots of people are saying hi. Mark's saying hi, Bob. Jeff saying hi, and Martha's saying yay for Massachusetts. Very cool. All right, I thought I saw a couple of, Daniel M says, I just got my first ASICS, started with the Novablast and Evo Ride, and I am loving them both so far.
Two of my favorites in the arsenal right now, so that's awesome to hear.
Well, cool. That leads me to like a question that I wanted to kind of rewind back, but I just got so into what we were talking about. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about, like, I mean, is it a prerequisite to work here to be a runner?
I don't necessarily think it's a prerequisite to be a runner. I think for us and for our human resources team who's finding talents and hiring managers, it's more about people who live our philosophy of this idea of sound mind, sound body. For a lot of people, certainly that's running. For other people, it's definitely not. It's other parts being active and balanced. Most of the team that I work on is definitely runners, but very varying levels of speed or skill, or also how involved in the sport they are at this point in their lives. Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit about your running?
Yeah. Right now, I'm definitely in the recreational spectrum, 25 to 40 miles a week, depending on the season. Get miles when I can. Use it definitely as kind of a communal part of my lifestyle. So connect to friends, coworkers, things like that.
Okay.
I was raised as kind of a high school collegiate runner, and then have definitely had some time as like a recreational marathoner and maybe vacation racer, I suppose you could say. Destination racer. And haven't done as much in the racing scene of late, but with in-person events coming back and creating that kind of connectivity, I'm excited to put some things on the calendar here upcoming.
Very cool. So what did you run in college?
So I was like a 1500 5K runner and then ran cross country. I went to a small school. I wasn't super competitive as a collegiate runner. Again, going back to the idea of being part of the sport. Definitely that was what grounded me through college, and ran with some incredible runners who went on to kind of semi-professional careers and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I would consider myself more of a mid-pack collegiate.
Okay, well, I'm going to put you on the spot and I didn't ask the question, so don't get mad at me. Daniel wants to know if you're comfortable sharing, what are some of your PRs?
PRs, so 5K, I was like a 16 flat high school 5K runner, low 15s collegiate runner, like 26 flat, 26:10 8K runner, and then jumping up into higher distances, like a 69-minute half marathoner. Marathon only in like the 250s, more from a BQ approach to it, and experience that race.
Okay, amazing. Those are some very fast times. Sorry, the camera is just jumping around with the camera wants to look at the shoes. It keeps focusing on the shoes back there.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a great shoe all.
But going back to like, everything is in levels. My boss is a former collegiate All-American. There's people on our product team who are have run in national world championship races, things like that. So there's tons of levels to it. And there's also people that have just taken up the sport as they've joined the brand. And so it's really cool to be a part of, like, you see kind of every aspect internally and then also connect to every aspect externally from a participatory perspective.
Do you guys, when we were talking a little bit as we were getting set up, and we talked about, I was like, is there like in Boston, there's a lot of other brands, not just in running, but in other kind of apparel and sports wear. And I was asking, is there like a softball league that you guys are all in? Is there anything like that here?
No softball league at this point. Okay. Maybe on the horizon. But definitely Saturday Run Group connects with a bunch of other brands on that stuff. And then there's a lot of just general socializing that happens in connection points. We're lucky to be in an industry where there's certainly like a healthy, friendly rivalry, but I'm also all about having dinner with colleagues from New Balance, from Saucony, from Reebok, and just connecting and talking about kind of the larger happenings of what we're passionate about in running.
Oh, that just reminded me. In recent news, I thought I heard that Reebok finally got spun off.
They just got sold.
Are any of your, to the extent that you could speak for someone else in a different company, how are they feeling about that?
I think it was something in the works for a long time, and no one ever knows what necessarily is coming with a change like that. But I also think the unknown is certainly probably scarier than knowing like this is the course into the future. So I think they're excited that they're putting kind of like acquisition and sale behind them and moving into like what is that brand of the future.
Very cool, very cool. And so tell me more about these. You mentioned that you guys go on group runs together.
Yeah.
Like who's coordinating that? Is there like a Strava group? Is it like, I have so many, so I'm so curious about this. Like, can you just tell me more about it? Cause I got a million questions.
At ASICS, we use Runkeeper.
Oh, well, okay.
Just fine. But whether it's Strava, Runkeeper, there's certainly groups that'll be popping up on there, but I just say we go the good old fashioned text chain.
Really?
There's a lot of back and forth just about the industry throughout the week. And then invariably by Thursday night, Friday morning, it settles into what time are we meeting? What restaurant is the run finishing at? And how are we kind of hanging out, spending our Saturdays?
Okay. All right. So like when you guys go, does everyone bring like their race shoes and say like, oh, it's just going to be an easy run, and then everyone's secretly gunning it? Or like how competitive do these runs get?
Whenever a newbie shows up, I'd say that they bring the race shoes and try to drop all the other brands. But I think everybody's got, once you kind of settle in,
Mhm.
a lot of people are testing future products, and those are generally all murdered out, triple black,
Right, yeah,
hard to
yeah.
tell what's going on there. Everybody's
Yeah.
a little cagey about it.
Uh-huh.
Or people are just running in, what's current in the line that they would pick for their like
Okay.
Saturday, whether they're going long, slow,
Okay.
whatever it is.
So then, can you, speaking of like everything from prototype or testing shoe to stuff that's off the shelf, can you tell me about like what a week of running shoes looks like for you?
Yeah.
Probably all ASICs.
All ASICs, certainly. Although we do squeak in a little bit of
Mhm.
direct competitor testing. We have an
Mhm.
entire kind of arm of the company that does that.
Mhm.
But merchandising in my role, understanding where the market's at,
Mhm.
where runners are going. We also want to experience that stuff too.
Okay.
So every once in a while, we'll lace up another brand and,
Mhm.
and kind of gut check where we're going.
Okay.
But for me, I'd say Nova, whatever's really relevant is kind of like dominating my rotation. So with
Mhm.
Nova just launching, Novablast version 3 or version 2, sorry,
Mhm.
living in the future.
Yeah.
That's been on my feet the most for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But I've got some old reliables that I pull out of the closet, rotate into, and have some fun with as well.
Like which ones? Can you be specific?
Big Nimbus light guy.
Okay.
And I think from a kind of what the product brief is, the story there is really cool. And I also just think it's a good kind of like workhorse. You can do just about anything in it shoe. Metaspeed Sky, although I'm not racing, I definitely throw that on a couple times a week and just like
For the Saturday,
feel,
like inter
yeah, there you go.
company intramural.
We should
kind
start to score these.
Yeah.
Do a cross country meet style.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely pull the Metaspeed Sky out
Yeah.
and just love the experience. And it takes me back to maybe when I was a faster runner from a pop and just feeling like I can get out of the shoe perspective. So those are probably my top three: Nova, Nimbus Light, and that right now.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's get to some more questions here. Brendan Cam coming in with the super chat. What's going on, Brendan? Brendan's out of Canada. He says, does ASICS ever get normal, quote unquote, everyday runners involved in the design process, or are all prototypes only tested by elites? It's a great question.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I really appreciated coming to the brand, was that kind of part of the brand's foundation in performance run is the idea of like democratizing technology and opening it up to as broad of a runner segment or consumer opportunity as possible. So from a testing standpoint, we've got everybody from 205 marathoners to first-time 5K runners, and certainly we kind of curate the products that they are testing, focused on biomechanics, their build, their background, things like that. But we work internally with wear testing groups. We work externally with some third parties that help validate and guide us to runners. And we try and get as kind of like robust of consumer data as we can and feedback throughout kind of 3 rounds of evolving the product, and make sure we're building it relevant to runners. We don't want to miss kind of the spot of what their goals are, their experiences, things like that. So
very cool, very cool. So today we were here because you guys were giving kind of a preview of what's coming down the pipe, and it was super exciting, guys. It's super exciting. I can't talk about any of it yet, but it's super exciting. But one of the things that I think I can talk about is that there was mention that, if you want to test a shoe and see how it does with taller runners or heavier runners, then you can kind of, there's like a Rolodex or like a database of people that you can call up and get that kind of testing. Is that right?
It is, yeah. So there's actually a group who just specializes in product wear testing, and they work across a variety of brands. But you can dial it down to, I could build a profile of you basically, and it would probably spit out you and 25 people who are built like you, do the mileage you do, have maybe the shoes from competitors in the rotation you're looking to test up against, and things like that. So you can really, really laser focus. I'd say we don't necessarily do that all the time. A lot more, it's kind of on a broader scale, because you certainly want to catch more than just Mike.
Right.
But
I'd be happy if it was just about Mike.
I feel like we did that with Novablast too, right?
I feel like it was a shoe. It's one of my favorites for the year. It's going to be in the top 5 by the end of the year for sure. It's easy. It comes up in like every conversation. So it's a fantastic shoe. Follow-up question on that though. How do people become one of those testers? Do you know? Or you're just like, I don't know, but whenever I call Jimmy, he's got a guy that fits those specs that we're looking for, or do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, so the group we work with, there's a variety of them, but there's one called Mesh One that people may be able to look out for.
Okay.
And then we also do direct feedback where we just work with people and connect to them. Most of that is facilitated through local run groups, not just here, but we do a lot of market travel to different areas of the country. You connect to a run group, whether it's through a running store or just kind of like the local run club, and make connections there, trade contact info.
Okay.
And it's funny, sometimes everyone's enthusiastic about testing future product, right?
Yeah.
But it's got to be the right product and it's got to be the right situation. So we get a lot of people's information, and they may not get every shoe on foot, but they're a huge part of the process, and there's always a lot of shoes on feet. It's just a matter of who they get to, when they get on them, what feedback we're looking for, where we're at in the process, things like that.
Who do you think it's easier to get data from? Someone that's a very experienced runner or someone that's a brand new runner? Because I feel like they're going to have very different vocabularies.
Absolutely.
And also things that they're looking for. So like, I mean, I guess that's a weird question in terms of like what's better, but like, well, maybe we could put it this way, because that's a terrible question. What kinds of information do you look for from an experienced runner? And then what are like some buzzwords or key things that you're looking to hear from an inexperienced runner because of that lack of vocabulary and experience that they might have?
I think while the vocabulary may be different, the kind of experience that they're looking for is the same. They just might articulate it differently. So we have a saying internally that comfort is king. And so while we can do all this biomechanics testing, durability testing, foam innovations, and all these other things, if at the end of the day, the elite or the beginner that we put it on doesn't say like, this is comfortable, step one, in some verbiage, like that's kind of, where we have to start. And then it all kind of navigates from there, whether we're looking for an efficient experience, say, an elite may talk about efficiency in very core terms or biomechanical terms, and a beginner may talk about it as they feel the shoe helping them roll or just propel them forward, just kind of broader. I think all the language, while different, you can certainly like bucket it into the themes of what you're looking for in the product, or if it's going somewhere else, your product's not necessarily hitting the mark you're trying to have articulated, and that's where a lot of revision happens, or we learn something where it's like, all right, we thought the product was going this way, feedback is really good, but it's from a completely different point of view. We need to reframe, we need to evolve it in this direction to really lean into what the consumer is telling us they want, telling us what they're experiencing and appreciating, and push it that way as we kind of build it and get it ready to bring to the market.
Is that what happened with the original Novablast?
Definitely a big part of it. Yeah. It was.
That was my suspicion.
Yep.
And we met originally in Atlanta for the marathon trials, and we had a discussion about it. And I believe you told me like you weren't sure if this was like for hardcore runners. I'm going to put you on the spot now.
No, I think.
But that's why I'm thinking like maybe the opinion on that changed as it got put into more runners' feet.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were trying to figure it out internally, and it got kind of briefed around one consumer who maybe doesn't run as much, is a little more fitness general oriented. And then our Institute of Sports Science brought this blast foam, and we were like, the experience is unbelievable from a pure running perspective. So while the product was briefed around this, the foam that got built into it and the geometry, there was a lot there. I really delivered it to be this hugely successful kind of true performance runner, which for us, I mean, as a lot of us being runners, could not have been more excited about, right? So as I said, it's like my favorite shoe in our rotation.
Yeah. How big of an impact does that have on a company that sells such a wide variety of sporting products like ASICS? Like, is the Novablast like, oh, hey, good job, guys? Or is like, this is a big deal? Like, what kind of impact did the Novablast have, you think, within like ASICS as a whole?
I think as people see future product from us coming, the Novablast quickly set a course for other products to utilize that foam, to innovate from a geometry standpoint on what that delivered on. and we kind of caught the spark and the energy of Nova, and now it's like, how do we bring that to other things and continue to storytell that throughout the line while continuing to push the Novablast forward into the future to keep those consumers excited and interested who connected to version 1 or version 2, don't want to slow down, want to keep pushing it forward and delivering best-in-class experience in that kind of space.
And then ASICS has such a legacy with some of its other franchises, like the Nimbus and like the Kayano, that have been around literally for decades. How does ASICS kind of like balance the tension of delivering what people want, which may not be like what some runners want, and also trying to push forward with new products?
Yeah, I think that's the feedback process, that's the wear testing process, that's speaking to consumers, to accounts, and all kinds of innovations get tested in those products. And what kind of ultimately gets baked out each season is what we feel best about will deliver. Excitingly for us, a shoe like Novablast, sitting separate from some of those more heritage products, was able to connect to those same runners and new runners and kind of proof positive concepts that are now, you see blast foam in our Kayano and potentially in some other products in the future. You see some of the geometry or shaping in the midsole connecting into other pieces in the line. So those kind of supplemental styles outside of our heritage are ways to kind of prove. And then from there, we figure out, okay, where does this fit into those kind of core of the business that have longstanding followings.
And then how much of the design process do you think is like part of your job is to be responsive to what runners are saying? How much of the design process goes into like, here's where we would like to take our runners? Not like you're trying to make people do something that they don't want to do, but like, here's this product we think people are going to like, even if there might be pushback from the beginning because it's different and new. Like, how much of there is that?
There's definitely a lot of that happens. I think that's part of the push-pull and the regional nuance we talked a little bit about at the top. So a lot of that kind of back and forth through the phases, and we're lucky, we have kind of 3 sample phases. And I'd say in some cases, sample round 1 is crazy radical, and then it gets dialed back. Other times it's crazy radical, and we gut check it with consumers, with accounts, everything else. And we're like, we feel good about it. We can even go more radical for round 2. And we feed that into the product engine. They come back, they evolve design, evolve materials, and the innovations they put into it. And then next round, we again gut check it, go back to the drawing board, talk it through again, make sure we feel like we're delivering in a good place until it ultimately comes to market.
Very cool. And how long does that process take?
Yeah, so right now we're working on the back half of 2022 product, and we're close to like finishing that. So really from a initial brief to market standpoint, it's between like an 18 to, on some products, even 24-month process when we're really bringing like a big innovation or a news story. Something that, like a Nimbus that has a number 23, 24 next to it, that product's probably more on that 18-month time frame. But something like a Novablast, when it first got birthed, was closer to that 24-month period.
Okay, because you're figuring more stuff out.
Yep,
and doing more testing. So then if it takes that long, I mean, by the time I get a shoe and do a review, like the changes I've already, I lost a camera here. All right, we'll switch to this one. We'll go a little bit wider. Let's see here. Make sure we're not showing anything we're not supposed to in some of the other. Well, all right. Sorry, guys. It wouldn't be a live stream if there weren't technical difficulties. Yeah. So then, I'm sorry. Let's reset. So how can feedback that I'm giving on a shoe or that other reviewers are giving on a shoe possibly have an impact on what comes up next?
Yeah, so Novablast, for example, you started to give us, we got you kind of pairs right ahead of the true launch of it. We started to hear feedback from you and other reviewers during our kind of second sample phase of version 3. So while we've already kind of got a point of view, have shown some consumers, some wear testers, version 1, version 2, or sample round 2, we're still in that phase. So hearing from you, that's kind of that 12-month out period,
Okay.
we get to hear from you again and inform the feedback, evolve, keep pushing things forward.
Okay. But like, are there other things that could be like added really quickly? Like if all of a sudden everyone starts saying like we want pull tabs on all the shoes, is that something you could just call up manufacturing and be like, by the way, just add a pull tab to the bag?
Not quickly,
Really?
I'd say. Yeah, the shoes kind of start getting built almost 9 months, like 7 to 9 months in advance of their actual coming to market, because globally it's a lot of shoes at the end of the day.
Sure.
So certainly we have 3 rounds. Up to that 3rd round, they can make a change.
Okay.
Honestly, a pull tab isn't that dramatic of a change,
Right.
but if they really feel, if we're hearing that feedback really strongly, it can still happen at that point as we go into what's called photo sample.
Okay.
That's when the product locks, and then we go to showing it to accounts, getting business commitments from them, and building from there.
Very cool. Very cool. So like if all of a sudden everyone's like, these tongues aren't puffy enough, or these tongues are too puffy, that may be something that can be changed a little bit later in the cycle. Whereas if everyone's like, this foam is all wrong, that's something that's going to be a little bit more difficult to really change course on.
Yeah, there's certainly like tweaks to the foam that can happen, but we try to get that dialed in a little bit earlier in the process, and then those other things a little later continue to adjust. All
right, let's get some more questions in here. And Ultra Dad, what's going on, Ultra Dad? Says, questions from a trail/ultra runner. Is there another Trabuco or Trabuco? We got the official pronunciation, guys. Trabuco in the pipeline, and is the tongue going to lose some master size?
Great question.
Yeah. We were talking just about tongue.
Yeah. So definitely Trabuco Max going to evolve, and kind of our trail line will evolve going forward in back half of 2022 and beyond. So you'll see some color ups and some subtle tweaks to close out this year, and as well as a couple of new trail shoes kind of end of the year here. And then Trabuco Max will evolve from there in 2022, kind of middle end of the year.
And what about the tongue?
The tongue has definitely been identified by reviewers, by consumers. That has certainly bubbled its way up and been heard loud and clear for sure.
Awesome. And we got a super chat from Ray Solers, a happy jogger, says, what would be an all-around good shoe rotation of ASICS? So kind of like help us distill the line. There's a lot of SKUs, but like, and everyone might have different subtle preferences, but like what would be like a solid like 2 or 3 shoe rotation from ASICS right now?
I think a lot of it comes down to foot and gait. So, whether you're predisposed to wearing neutral product, whether you're predisposed to wearing more kind of stability product or more protection product. And then also that a lot of it comes down to experience. But, for me, I talked a little bit about Novablast, Nimbus Light, Metaspeed as my rotation. A lot of my close coworkers, they'll do like 2000 as their daily trainer, and then jump into something like Evo Ride or Noosa as their kind of faster pickup shoe. I think Metaspeed's been so good for us that anybody who's pulling a race shoe out of the closet right now is gravitating to that. Although there is definitely some Magic Speed customers as well, or runners too. But I think that's the nice thing about the brand, going back to that idea of like democratizing the technology. There's a lot of product because we're trying to build not something for everyone, but an option for any experience, any runner, from a kind of build, gait, things like that.
So going from like Novablast will be your daily trainer, the Nimbus is more your max cushion, and then the Metaspeed Sky is your race day. And so if other people are using, what were you saying is like using the GT 2000, that's like a mild stability shoe.
Exactly.
And then you're going to the Evo Ride, which is kind of like more of the rockered speed day shoe.
Poppy tempo shoe.
Very cool. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. That was a great question, Ray. Here's another one that I think is a very important question. And I know you're not a designer, but how do designers decide the length of the laces, or and I'll add to this a little bit, Thomas, the puffiness of laces?
I think you're talking about the lose-lose conversation of every footwear design process.
Really?
I don't know if a brand has ever gotten good feedback on laces. Like no matter what, they're either too long, they're too short. It's not consistent. Some people want to do a runner's knot, other people, all these different things. Like it's so subtle. And then even we've tried stuff like quick laces, and we get some people love them, some people hate them,
Right.
it all around.
Yeah.
And then even our product team sometimes will come and say, we want to bring a lace innovation.
Yeah.
And oftentimes our feedback is like, it's cool, love the functionality. Should this be part of the story? Like, is this gonna, win the day for us?
So it seems to be like the hot potato. No one wants to hold it.
Yeah,
Really?
exactly.
That's so funny. Because so often for me, I'm just like, it just seems like the laces are an afterthought. But for me, a lot of times the laces are an afterthought. But I know some people are like, and there's been a couple of shoes where I've been like, these laces, what the heck is happening?
There's definitely a lot, like through the sample rounds, multiple laces will be sampled. There's different things tried out. The stretch to a lace is a big part of it, and like how that feels when you're tightening it down across the top of the foot. But I would still say invariably there's going to be a runner out there or runners who vocally say like something with the lace that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. So it is a lose-lose. Or someone's always going to be mad.
For sure.
All right. Here's another question. Terry says, talking about design, why is stack height the same for all shoe sizes? He's 6 foot and change and 77 kilograms, size 11 UK. Why do I get the same cushion as someone that's 5 feet and 50 kilograms, size 7?
Yeah, I
don't think it's the same stack height though. Different size shoes have different heights, right?
Definitely, yeah. So there is some variation to that, and then for us, even men's to women's, there's a little bit of variation as well. But also that's part of the idea behind the number of products in the line. Like maybe a little bit heavier runner, bigger runner may gravitate more towards a Nimbus than a Cumulus, or go vice versa, things like that. Right,
and so. When you see, like when I talk about a stack height on a review video or when I see it listed on a website, that's that height for, does it go by reference size at size 9 or is that for size 8.5?
It goes by reference, men's size 9, women's size 7 is kind of the benchmark.
Okay, because like my understanding is from like a World Athletics, like street legal road marathon racing shoes, that stack height is measured by an 8.5. Is that right?
It is correct. And so for shoes that we know are going to be like up against that limit, we definitely sample in 8.5 as well.
Okay.
To get that kind of approval and get them out on the roads.
Okay. So, but like still, so then like no, I don't think any of the ASICS shoes are at 40 millimeters.
Sky is pretty close.
Right. So then the number that I'm looking at, the weight is for a size 9 and the stack height is for an 8.5, or I'm getting a size 9 stack height.
The published numbers, if you're looking at our website, would be that size 9.
Okay.
There's definitely like wholesale partners that do their own stack height measurements. They try to adhere to the World Athletics stuff. There's also different brands measure different ways, whether they include like sock liner, or stroke board, outsole, things like that. So you definitely see strong variation even in styles that are similar from different manufacturers.
Okay, makes sense. It's like such a confusing, from a consumer perspective, like trying to figure that out. But that's very, very helpful. All right, there was another one up here that you and I talked about a little bit before, like yesterday, the baseball game, from another one from Dan Lim. It says, Bob, maybe please have a modernized Onitsuka Tiger running shoe. I've asked this to Bob every time we've talked, basically.
It's been a topic internally. I'll take this comment, screenshot it, bubble it up in the feedback once again. I think Onitsuka is incredible, and it's held in such high regard because its story tells where the brand came from, that maybe sometimes we're hesitant to remix it, mess around with it, and in fear of maybe compromising what it stands for from a heritage perspective. Never going to say no in the long term, and we've definitely done some packs where color in Onitsuka connects to our more kind of modernized sports style stuff, connects to our performance run, and cool things like that. But as far as like we talked about Protras, we haven't pulled one together and brought it to market yet.
Yeah, well, if you need a tester for that Protra, you put me in the Rolodex.
We'll get some of the online just customizers to build you one on.
That would be amazing. All right. Let's get another one from Ultra Dad. How much effort goes into getting your shoes on the start line of the elite runners, and how has the social media influencer movement, like Kofuzi, influenced your overall marketing strategy? That's a great question.
effort into getting your shoes onto the start line for elite runners. So there's kind of two avenues to that. There's definitely, athletes that we sign and partner with and are to some degree paid brand advocates. Certainly they all want to be a part of the brand. And then there's also maybe elite athletes who don't have footwear deals who pick our product off the shelf and that's what they roll with. Sometimes that turns into a paid partnership ultimately or a product partnership. So variance is definitely there. And then also for athletes who have been with us longer term, sometimes there's some like custom work done to help kind of hone the product to their true needs. In terms of you and how you've kind of influenced the brand, I think you're a voice in the product creation process, whether you know it or not, which is really awesome. You are also a massive megaphone to help get our message and goals out there from a product standpoint. And you're affording us opportunities like this to connect in and really hear where you see the market going, who you're connecting with, where they think things are going. And it's helped in product creation. It's helped in how we storytell that in the marketplace. I think even going back, we talked about how Novablast 1 was maybe a little different than what we thought it was internally. We were hearing that before it actually came to market from people like you. And some of the marketing was already cooked at that point. But now on version 2, we've kind of corrected. We know where we're going with it. We have the identity honed and are evolving the product to suit that need.
Very cool. And very flattering, by the way. Starting out doing this, it never occurred to me that it would reach as many people as it does the people that are watching now. And it certainly didn't ever occur to me that it would reach an actual brand as well. So it's very humbling and flattering to know that. But given this dynamic, how does that change the way that you guys interact with your retail partners, like running stores? And how does it change the way that you interact with your other, I don't want to say previous brand ambassadors, because I don't want to say that in any way am I trying to, or am I replacing your sponsored athletes, but how does that change those relationships?
I think you're just another kind of layered voice in the process and another point of view. And I feel like whether it's our retailers or our athletes, they can take learnings from you and aspire to some of the things you do, and that can influence their day-to-day. It can even influence some of us internally in terms of how we speak to the product, like we just talked about. And just, again, adding almost a lane that didn't exist and expanding the freeway, expanding what's our message, where it's going, who it's getting to, and connecting to new people and getting everyone to kind of push forward and aspire to do better, whether that's from a product tech standpoint, getting into the details, giving experience and delivering on that kind of what is the product, what's it truly feel like when you're out on the roads or whatever it is, and how does the customer find that information and connect to it.
Very cool. In terms of going back to the concept of your sponsored athletes, and we talked a little bit about this earlier off camera, but what are some of the things that, and I know you're not necessarily the sponsorship person, but what are some of the things that ASICS looks for specifically when it's looking to sign an athlete as someone that they're going to take on as a product sponsorship or as a bigger level of sponsorship?
Yeah, I think there's some sports where a lot of it's about signature shoes and really tying a product to an athlete. For us, we're more looking for people who represent our kind of foundation. ASICS stands for Sound Mind, Sound Body. We want people that kind of live that in their day-to-day. Certainly wearing the product, representing that is a part of it, but we're not necessarily looking for them to tell these hyper product specific stories. We want them to have the same values our company does, be connected into their communities, whether that's in person, whether that's on a social scale, and be able to really just be authentic and speak to that kind of core principle of the brand.
Right. So there isn't 3 Instagram posts per month and 3 tweets per month, nothing like that.
Okay. I mean, certainly we love when they're super active in the social space. I mean, a lot of people are exposed to brands. That's kind of the first connection point. So that is cool, but we're not going and saying you have to say this about this product or anything like that. It's more we're providing them gear. They're trying it out. They're finding what works for them. They're also sharing their lifestyle, their experiences, their training. And our product is certainly like an organic piece of that when they're doing track workouts, racing, all those other things.
Yeah, awesome. Here's a question from Daniel. It says, ask Bob if ASICS employees think Nike stole their whole style in the 60s and 70s.
I mean, it certainly started there. I wouldn't lay any blame on the split,
Sure.
but I'd say we both ended up in a pretty good place today, and are two of the leaders in the performance run and in honestly the sportswear space globally. So pretty incredible to see what Mr. Onitsuka's vision, starting in '49, has become two of the largest sportswear brands in the world, not just one.
Pretty amazing stuff. All right. Let's see if we can find about more. Runner Dre says, Martha asked about drop differences between men and women's shoes. Can you please ask? Let me see if I can find that question. Is there a general kind of like way that things go in terms of men's and women's, or like why that would be?
So there's subtle stack differences. We've also done some gender engineering technology where we vary the drop slightly, we vary the durometer, and vary some of the internal technology to just essentially line up with women's biomechanics versus men's and vice versa. So definitely subtle differences. Drop in kind of our two flagship top of line models in the Nimbus and Kayano in neutral and stability. There's a difference in drop between the men's and women's.
And is it a 12 millimeters versus a 10? Is that just the women's tends to be higher?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So.
And then tell me about the changing the durometer of it. Is the women's softer or more firm, or is
typically it's a bit softer? And then we also have this technology called 3D space construction, which is internal. We kind of core out the midsole into these geometric shapes, which on the women's side adds more flexibility, more deformability in the forefoot, versus men who need a little more kind of side-to-side stability at toe off and are also more focused on like forefoot durability because they're generally heavier. We shape it different. We set up that part of the shoe differently.
So the differences are not the foams aren't different. It's the shaping of the foam.
The shaping and the durometer. So the materials themselves are the same. So like if you have flake foam blast and a Novablast, you have it in the men's and women's. But those other things can differentiate between the two.
Oh, fascinating. And there's another question that was up earlier that is, I guess, not that related. I forget where it went. But how do people distinguish between the Metaspeed Sky and the Metaspeed Edge?
Yeah, so I think for us, we found really interesting data with our elite athletes about runners who run fast via stride versus cadence. For a lot of people, it comes down to what your smartwatch is telling you as kind of like a pathway. For us in the future, we're looking to roll out some tools that kind of help guide that process. I think the other part of it is there can definitely be a layer around experience that they're looking for. Edge has a higher offset, it's a little bit firmer, it's a little lower profile. Sky has a lower offset, higher stack. So there is some differentiation for runners that happen like that. Either way, the technology packed into those shoes is going to drive you to a more efficient run, whether you're a stride or a cadence runner. But that other additional piece, if you're trying to achieve your best or looking for major PRs, is something you can kind of dial in on your own from a smartwatch standpoint, or again, we'll have tools rolling out to kind of help guide that process.
Fascinating. I wish you could tell me more about that, but it sounds like you can't.
I think for us, Sky and Edge are out now. And honestly, the product team was developing one shoe for a long time to be kind of the super racer in our line. And that insight of stride versus cadence came relatively later in the process and was able to influence enough change to actually build a second shoe, which launched a couple months later, but kind of staggered into the market from a timing perspective and has found kind of its own following pretty quickly. And for us, continuing to speak to those kind of two running styles and connecting those products into that, I think as a path forward is a great point of view for the brand to have. And it's cool to see an insight starting with elite racers and efficiency quickly become those two silhouettes and kind of where that takes the line in the future.
Cool. So it's not simply a matter of like if you prefer a firmer or a softer shoe, and not if you simply prefer a taller, like a bigger heel drop or a lesser heel drop.
That can definitely be your calculus,
Mhm,
but
okay.
there's more to it from a how you run faster standpoint, efficiency standpoint, and how the gains in efficiency are measured, how those shoes
Okay.
will kind of support the individual.
So ideally, you would be looking at your cadence for, say, like a workout, to see
Essentially.
like how
Yep.
quickly it is or isn't changing to be able to
Exactly.
determine it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even looking at on like a tempo day, what you're running in your warm up, what you're doing in your first couple of miles, and maybe you finish hard and seeing where your cadence stands at that point.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. All right, let's try and get one or two more. Yeah, here's a good. I think this will be a great one to ask. And then we'll end for today. Martha wants to know, as just a consumer, can I or anyone else come to the headquarters while I'm in Boston and try shoes?
For better or worse, there's a lot of sensitive stuff in the office from a future standpoint. We are lucky to have a team in the field of what we call technical representatives who will take current product as well as maybe just not quite released product out to local run shops, local run groups, and let people kind of get a feel for them and experience them there early without having to like purchase and try product. So I would push everyone to kind of explore that avenue if they're wanting to, try a Metaspeed Sky without maybe making that initial investment, or just try to mix something else up in the line. That's a great way to try kind of across the ASICS line. Sometimes they'll have 5 or 6 different styles there that you can really get to experience and understand those kind of subtle nuances more directly.
Cool. Now, like, I kind of understand where Martha is going with this, because you guys were really gracious hosts to me here today, and I was able to try on and experience a lot of new product. And by the way, guys, the next wall over is all new shoes that I can't show you guys. But like, if from a consumer perspective, like, I'm not sure how familiar you are with like all like the retail offerings. Is there like a flagship, like if someone wants to go and experience like premium ASICS experience, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, so we have ASICS stores throughout the country. We have about 35 in the US that are going to carry every product in our line. I believe all of them at this point, or close to all of them, have rolled out and have like a treadmill experience opportunity.
Cool.
A lot of the time as well, your local run specialty shop spread throughout the country will have 99 to 100% of the assortments, and can really kind of like guide you for what your needs are as an ASICS store can as well, and steer you to shoes they think you may like, or just open up the full arsenal and kind of let you figure it out on your own from an experience preference.
Is there an ASICS store in Chicago? I mean, if you said 35, there's got to be one, right? I'm not aware of it.
I don't have the map in front of me. I think we have 2 like suburban stores in Chicago. We don't have a footprint like downtown.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll have to check it out. All right. Thank you so much for your time today, Bob. Especially it's a Saturday. I know it's like it's on the weekend, having you in, coming into work, hauling you in here to answer questions from us. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for letting me be here. I'm thrilled to be back doing this stuff in person.
That's awesome.
Knock on wood, we keep doing more and more of it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Tomorrow, there's going to be another video, because I'm doing a daily videos for my entire time here of the things that I can show you. There's certain things I can't, unfortunately. But there'll be another video tomorrow, but no live stream again until Monday. Wait, there won't be a Monday live stream because I'll be traveling on Monday. So the next time I'll see you guys live stream wise will be Tuesday. All right, so videos tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, but I won't see you again live stream wise until Tuesday. All right, until the next time I see you guys, be safe out there, everybody. Thanks.